Have you ever thought about how your environment might impact on your creativity? From your motivation to writing topic to your writing style. Some of you might already know that I went back to China for a 3 weeks trip, and then this trip has been impact on me, rock my core in many ways. I've been observed my mind, soul, and creativity and how they react to the culture and the environment changes. How I from hyper-productive to lose motivation until I finally pick back up again. How my creative curiosity from extremely desperate to confusion till now roughly reached to the point of acceptance. This is probably one of the most important videos that I'm going to make. In fact, there are so many things I want to share with you that my head is still a little bit messy, but I'm going to try, and I believe many things in this video will help you gain some clarity on your writing career. Our brain is wired to adapt to our environment. We already knew that we are kind of average of the people that we surround us with. But not just people, the technology, the culture environment can also impact on us in a big way. We'll look into this topic in 3 different aspects. Inside the environment, outside of the environment, and the similarity of being in different environments. And I will use things I saw and experienced throughout this trip as example to kind of make my point across. So aspect number 1, outside of the environment. What will happen when there's a distance between you and an environment? You might already know that I've been living in the US for a long time. Last time I've been staying in US for 6 years straight without going back to China. Being in a completely different environment for such a long period of time, kind of confusing and feeling isolated for me. Towards the end of last year and earlier this year, right before I leave to China, while I'm writing my story, I found myself looking into learn more about my own culture, my heritage, and desperately want to put them into the story. There's a Chinese saying goes like this: distance creates beauty. Back then when I was in China, that never came to the US. All I can see and think is the positive side of being in the US. And when I'm being in the US for a long period of time, I start seeing every society have its downside. When I thinking back to my own Chinese heritage and my culture, I start seeing the good aspect of the things more. I start appreciate of the thousands years of culture there, and start learn things that I used to take for granted, the poetries that we used to learn in the school, and also the culture, the food, the craft and design, all kinds of things. And I find myself really want to incorporate those things into my story because ultimately it was part of me, and it's because of the distance made me kind of craving for it. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but there is 56 different minority in China, and we have slightly different cultures and heritage. I'm one of the minority. It's called Bai minority. And when I was writing my script, I found myself start digging into more of my bi-minority heritage stuff and those ancient stories that I've been told thousands of times when I was a kid that I never take it to the heart. And now it somehow I feel I have much more interest into those stories, and I keep thinking about how can I incorporate them into my film. Another part of the experience that's kind of strange is in the beginning of this year, I think it's towards the end of 6 years being in the US, I felt I started losing memories of my childhood. I started dreaming about the street that I grew up in, the school I used to went to, but somehow always having those nightmares of things, events happening in those streets, but I can't walk beyond a certain point. Somehow my memory is lost. I can't recall what the street looks like after this block, things like that. And then often waking up in terror. I think it reflects a part of me having the fear of losing my roots, the fear of forgot where I came from, whose shoulder I stand on, sort of terrifies me. I think mainly because I'm a writer and I want to capture those things. The most scary thing to me is to write something that's not personal, doesn't have my soul and my experience and the things I know. And losing those memories, it's almost like losing materials, losing inspiration for me. It's terrifying. So this time when I went back to China, I think it was like the second or third day, I immediately went to the city that I grew up in and then walked through most of the street. I visited my primary school, middle school, and high school, and also those street we used to play, start recall a lot of memories, and then feeling excited how I can put those into my story or any story that I'm writing. I record and taking picture of almost everything, trying to capture the memory, the feeling, the smell, and hopefully one day I can display those feelings onto a page. The entire day I found myself very sentimental, and I also have the strong fear of losing all of this. I feel as a writer, all I need is to write them down, to put them somewhere, and then I can't forget about it. What I'm scared of is I will lose them before I even have a chance to write them down. What created this appreciation towards my past, my culture, and my memory is because the distance that I created. You imagine being in an environment that's speaking a completely different language every single day. You kind of naturally lose a certain part of memory, and you kind of start forgetting where you came from and start wondering, having thoughts of, was my childhood was real? Was those culture, those story was real? Until I was there, fully immersed myself in that environment. Somehow, the beauty that created by the distance all come rush to me. Everything's precious. I can't believe how I took all of this for granted. But if you think about it, if I stay in that environment for long enough, without having this precious distance, I might start losing interest to those things. I might start getting used to it, and the myth that I was told, the culture I see, the memory that I have might just went by my head, that I will take it for granted again. One of the interesting examples is my wedding in China. Some of you might already know that I hosted a wedding during this 3-week period of time while I'm in China. When I was a kid, when I think about wedding, I like to think about everything is white, everything is Western style. But at that time, when I was a kid, when I'm thinking about a bi-minority style wedding, a wedding with my own tradition, what I thought of is that's so lame. I don't like that. I do not want to have that. It's not fancy at all. Things like that. But when I stay in the US for such a long period of time, when my parents bring up this, do you want to do a wedding again? Part of me really want to honor that heritage. And I decided and then told my mom, if we're gonna do it, I don't want to do it Western style. I want to do it way that honor my tradition. I not only want to do a Chinese wedding, but I want to do a bi-minority wedding. Turns out it was great. We kind of simplified a little bit, escaped a lot of steps, but my mom's friend planned her wedding with my family and their closest friends all together. In the morning, we did a whole tea ceremony, and then in the afternoon, my mom's friend, who is happened to be a tea maker, and we went to their tea house and kind of drinking tea and taking pictures, things like that, until the evening. And we went to dinner with all my parents' friends and family, and then a few of my friends that still lives nearby. Anyway, I just thought that was a great example of something that I used to think it's lame. I used to take it for granted in the culture because I was in that environment, and it now becomes something I desperately appreciate and feeling really proud of. Those are also things that I really want to put into stories that I'm writing so I can share with the world. I used to wonder, if I want to write a story about my own culture, isn't that a bad idea that I'm living completely in the West, that in a different environment, how am I going to absorb informations that I want to write about? But now I felt much better because I realized that it's because of the distance that made me want to explore the culture in a deeper way, a way with gratitude, a way with authenticity, so that I can write a story and then share with the world. Right before I went on Chinese trip, I actually was searching books online and trying to buy those lost books, those books that's not published anymore, the books about bi-minority story, bi-minority history, and bi-minority building, things like that. I just received those books recently and I'm going to start digging into them. Aspect number 2, environment can impact us in a very subtle way. Every time when I visit my hometown, I find myself gradually start losing motivation. That started when I was in college. Every time summer break, I went back for 2 months, I found myself lack of motivation of pursuing anything or do anything creative. I remember 2017, I was there for 4 months, and when I was back to the US, I feel I don't motivated to do anything, but the environment here seems different and it seems want me to do something. I just didn't know what to do and how to get myself motivated, so I become very depressed, and that lasted for entire month and took me a long time to figure out how to get out of it. So this time I came back to the US. I thought I didn't stay in China for that long, it might not impact on my mind. I did feel unmotivated as soon as I get back. I thought that was because of jet lag, and also I was having the time of the month, so physically I was pretty sick, and I thought that was okay, until one day there was a thought popping in my mind, and it's a very intrusive thought and it repeatedly came into my mind, and it goes like this: maybe I'll just keep my day job and then can make a comfortable living. Why am I pursuing YouTube and a filmmaking career? Why am I making myself work so much? Why did I make myself suffer? I could be comfortable. Thoughts like that keep popping in my mind until I talk to my therapist, and that's when I realized, oh, it was because my hometown environment, the environment that I was familiar with, has been subtly but quickly impacted in my mind, and I'm taking that with me back here. The reason it's impacting my mind so easily is because that's again something I'm familiar with. Why I say familiar with, it's because all my pattern, my life habit that I built through upbringing for 10, 20 decades kind of wired in my head. For example, if I'm growing up in a family that's high achievement with lots of pressure, maybe my mind is comfortable with high achieving and lots of pressure, and then laying back to relax, to be in the present will be very hard for me. But my family, my environment, people in my hometown mostly are more of taking their time, living in the moment, making their little daily life comfortable, very nice living. That's what I'm familiar with, and only when I'm out of that environment can I really find out what I really want, and what I wanted and still want in this moment is keep pursuing until the day I change my mind, and that's totally okay too. And also because my hometown environment has so many good food, and they just made life so comfortable, and my family is around. I know they can make me comfortable. We're taking care of each other. We have a big family, all my relatives, things like that. And then also it's very convenient environment. Wherever you go, you don't even need to bring your wallet. You just have your phone and you scan your phone to pay for everything. And then it's also, if you're hungry, you can get food in the evening. Even the things that you shop online give you a sense of aesthetic pleasing. So everything just designed in a way make your life more comfortable and easier. So overall, whatever pattern that I'm familiar with the comfortable environment will start subtly impact on my mind that make me feel that being comfortable, being easy, not pursuing anything is okay. It was until a week back into the US, and then thanks to this room, the environment that I have built for myself, the books, the routines, the equipments that gradually made me start rethink about what I want to do with my life. And then gradually I start regain momentum beat by beat, but it does take time. For example, I'm able to record video today, and it takes a lot of willpower to do so. And yesterday, I was just celebrating record one frame for the video, and then that was it. But I can feel my motivation is gradually back. My mind start getting more and more occupied by my writing and my YouTube, things like that, and also my mind gradually leaning towards my routine of pursuing. I have a couple disclaimer on this topic. First of all, not saying pursuing comfort is bad. It's just not something that I wanted right now. I think there are different kinds of things we want for life, and different people definitely want a different thing. Whatever you want, if you want a more present, comfortable life, building your little garden, planting your own fruits, that's what you feel comfortable and you want to pursue, that's great. And for me, at the moment, is that I want to write story and share story with the world. So that's what's important for me, and I do not want to have the environment around me made me start getting too comfortable and then forget about that. And also, it's not to say in China it's all slow paced. There are also people in China who is highly achieving and then pursuing and maybe overly productive and work so much. And then there are also people in the US that maybe not that driven in terms of money and success, but they are more like simple living, and then there are different kind of people anywhere. So when I'm saying the environment you are familiar with, I don't mean the cultural environment. I more mean the family dynamic environment, the things that a family believes in, a lifestyle a family believes in. Believe it or not, even you might disagree with it, but that's how your brain wired when you're growing up. The upper brain environment did help you build sort of a system in your head to break that barrier, to gain motivation for what I really want. I have to step out of that environment to really detach from it. Only when we create a distance from the environment that we are familiar with and then stepping back, getting out of our comfort zone, we can truly ask ourselves this question: what do I really want? And then that answer maybe will be close to the answer that's honest to you. It's all about looking for clarity outside of your upper brain comfort zone. This might give you a hint why sometimes you are in a maybe achieving environment, an environment that you build like this room with the books and movies surrounding you, and you still don't feel motivated. That's probably because part of your brain is wired for comfort, and that's totally okay. It's just up to you how you're going to utilize the environment you build for yourself right now to gradually build a routine, a habit, and then build that momentum for yourself. That's why it takes time to pursue something, because the action is not only learning the craft and the pursuing, but slowly erase, dissolve certain pattern that you already have in your head. So throughout this trip, I realized I love both sides of things, because I was working too hard before I went to China and then often burned out. I love every day is very occupied and I'm very driven, but at the same time, I don't like the burned out. And I love in my hometown the comfort, the food, the people, and the environment made me feel like life can be very simple. So what I want now is to have both, and I can travel between both country and then swing between two environments, having a taste of two different kind of life. I can focus on my pursuing here, and when I'm tired, I will go back to my hometown to get a little bit rest, and I'll just go back and forth like that. And I really see this being far away from my family now as my advantage. I think the key takeaway from this is the impact our environment giving us is so subtle that we really need to learn to gradually have awareness of it. Oftentimes, it's not because you're lazy. It might be because the people you talk to, the things you're surrounding yourself with, the things you consume, might put you back into a mindset that you are familiar with. and it always takes time to adjusting back to the lifestyle and then the routine you truly want for yourself. So be compassionate towards yourself. Aspect number 3, as writers, we are all the same wherever we are. I went to Beijing for 3 days before I come back to the US. We visited the Great Wall and Tiananmen Square, Summer Palace and Museum, things like that. I also met up with some of my writer friends there. Some of them has been successfully working as working writer for years, and then some of them were struggling. But what interesting is, even right now in the US, there's a writer's strike. A lot of people are not working, but even before the writer's strike, there has been slowing down in different productions. There were not many projects going on. Lots of people are experiencing post-pandemic effect. What's interesting is, even though there's no strike in China, the productions has been slow too. A lot of writers and filmmakers are out of work in completely different country, different culture, different policy towards the pandemic. Somehow we are all experience the same thing. I chat with different friends about our writing methods, our routines, our diet to manage energy, and our research process, things like that. And we share a lot of similar struggle too. Out of our busy schedule, we're trying to find a time to write each day. We're trying to manage our mind space and build an environment that's good for writing. And we travel and read for researchers. It's very interesting to see that in different sides of the globe, under very different culture, our creativity needs to be cultivated in the same way. So to summarize this video, we are all the same. We are the creature of a habit. We are the product of our environment. The environment and the family dynamic we grew up in will trigger our old thinking and our old habits. We need to step out of it, clear our head, and then really think for ourselves, what kind of lifestyle do we want? To understand who we are is the path to authentic writing. And then you don't have to completely move to a different city, different country, like what I did. That's not the point. The point is to take your time, find your way to build an environment or a space for yourself to cultivate your creativity. Mine is this little room, the books, the screenplays, the movies that I collected over time, and then the pens, notebooks, and unfinished writing files on my computer that served my routine. And then remember, no matter what culture you are living in, our creativity works the same way, so we need to cultivate it the same way. Be compassionate towards yourself. You are not lazy nor uninspired. It's the environment around you contribute to how you feel in this moment. So just take your time to build the environment for yourself and then the space for your creativity. And then there will be struggles and then rewards. And thank you so much for watching. If you like today's video, you might also like this one, and you can click right here. And then remember to subscribe to the channel and be patient, be present, stay creative. I'll see you next week. Bye. Beep.